This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Rachel Fife.
Well, welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Now, are you in need of a financial advisor to help you, your family, or even your business achieve its financial and retirement goal? Well, you know that resource may be closer than you think. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing your good neighbor, Colby McFadden with Quiver Financial. Colby, how's it going?
Good, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Well, my pleasure. Well, we are excited to learn all about your business. So tell us about your company.
Well, we're what they call a fiduciary investment advisor, which is basically the person you go to when you have money questions. And for 25 years, we've really focused on the same clientele, which is families and business owners that are within 5 years of retirement, because that's a period of time when you have to be more concerned about your risk. Everybody in Wall Street tells you about think long-term, invest over 20, 30 years, all with the right advice. But what happens when you're 60, 65, and your 30 years is turned into 5 years? That's the kind of people that we specialize and help with.
Wonderful. How did you get into this business, Colby?
Well, you since you come from the advertising and marketing world, you might remember a thing called the penny saver, and I was selling advertising for the penny saver. I knew it wasn't the future for me at that particular time, and I went out on the search and I started interviewing. I knew I wanted to be in the money business because my grandmother had always been an investor. And right before she passed away, she looked at me, had her newspaper out and was looking at her stocks. And she looked at me and she said, "Hey, when I die, you're gonna inherit $10,000." She goes, "I want you to use it for school, but I want you to take 2,000 of it and buy Lucky stock," which Lucky was the grocery store chain at the time. And I followed her instructions. The Lucky stock grew and got me an extra year of college, which I wouldn't have had if I didn't follow her guidance. So when I was selling advertising, I realized, you know what, I want to be in the money business. And I got very lucky that as I was interviewing, I opened the penny saver, who I was working for at the time, saw an ad for a couple guys in South Orange County who needed to mentor somebody up. And it was a match made in heaven. I worked with them for over 10 years. They taught me everything I needed to, and then helped me get off on my own as well. So it was just kind of a magical situation that, as your life develops, it all kind of evolves and fits.
Wow. What are some myths, do you think, or misconceptions in your industry?
Well, I think that it depends. It depends on age. The young person's myth is that you can get rich quick. Hey, just go buy a crypto coin, just go buy something, and you'll get lucky and hit a home run. So that's a big myth. Yes, that does happen, but it happens very rarely, as often as maybe buying a lotto ticket. So give it a shot, but don't base your future on it. And then the myth of the older person is that they can't afford to take risk. That they have to be overly conservative for some particular reason. And as we've seen in this day and age, people live a really long time. And the system is designed to keep you alive. Not necessarily well, but definitely alive. So even when you get older, you can't be so risk averse, because sometimes you still need your money to grow to reach your goals, considering how medical expenses only go higher.
Wow, that's so true. Now we know marketing is really the heart of every business. So I'm curious, how are you targeting your customers or attracting them?
Well, marketing is the hardest thing nowadays, because when I started in the business, it was real simple. If you had a phone book and a Thomas guide, if you remember what those were, you just picked up the phone, and as long as you could get along with somebody and they gave you a second to talk, you had a chance. But, caller ID shut all that down. And so now it's all about digital media. Digital media, for a guy who's been trying it for a long time, there's a lot of caveats to it, and it's nothing that people tell you when they're selling you, all your SEO and this, that, the other thing. So I would say nowadays, marketing, especially in a service business that's financial related, where you also have a lot of regulations, has become extremely difficult, extremely expensive, because it's all about scale and size. And to get to scale, you got to have money. And right now, it's hard to compete with the Fidelities and the Vanguards who outspend you on every website out there.
Have you ever thought of doing your own podcast?
Yeah, we do. They're a lot of work, but there again, it's about scale. What I've learned about digital media is all of it's great ideas, but it doesn't matter if they can't scale to thousands. We're not hundreds of thousands. Your podcast is great, but you, like all advertising, you get a return of less than 1/10 of 1%. So if you're going to do something, it's got to get to an audience of hundreds of thousands of people nowadays. That's really hard to do when you think about CNBC. CNBC is a channel, a TV channel, and they're lucky to get 90 to 100,000 views in a day. So just scaling podcasts, scaling videos is extremely difficult if you're trying to do it on a budget.
Now outside of work, what do you like to do for fun?
Well, I'm an avid watersman. The brand Quiver Financial has a little bit of a water and surf feel to it, because if you come from that world, you always have a quiver of surfboards. And the reason is, if you want to have a good time surfing, you really got to do some homework. You got to look at the environment, what's going on with the tide, the wind, the weather. And then you got to look at your tools in the garage, all your different surfboards, and say, well, today looks like this kind of day. What board do I take out? That's the same thing that we do in investing. When we sit down with a client, we look at the environment that they're in and what their needs are. And then we turn to our quiver of tools and say, okay, you need this, this, and this in your portfolio. So surfing and anything that is technically related to the ocean and having fun in it is what we typically do around here.
Wonderful. So Colby, please tell our listeners one thing they should remember about Quiver Financial.
Well, I think the thing to remember about Quiver Financial and that makes us unique is our focus on that red zone of investing. I mean, anybody can help you when you're 20 or 30 years old to help think 30 years out, but very few people have a skill set to be able to manage risk on shorter term basis. And that's what we've created our whole system to do, is to help people who are retired or entering retirement to still feel like they're invested for growth, but not have the sleepless nights of what if things turn on me? Am I going to lose it all? So it's really about risk management.
Wonderful. Well, how can our listeners learn more about Quiver Financial?
Our website's pretty comprehensive, maybe overly comprehensive. So I'd go to quiverfinancial.com. And if you don't see enough there, then give us a call. The phone number's right there as well.
Okay, great. Well, Colby, I really appreciate you being on the show, and we wish you and your business really all the best moving forward.
Well, I appreciate you having us on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnporangecounty.com. That's gnporangecounty.com, or call 714-941-8862.